Perspective is the lens through which we see the events of our lives, and it determines whether we move forward in freedom or stay trapped in the shadows of our past. Regret is a lens clouded with the what-ifs and if-onlys. It chains us to moments we cannot change and keeps our energy fixed on doors that have already closed. But a shift in perspective can transform those same moments from weights into wings. Instead of asking why something happened to us, we begin to ask what it has done for us, what strength it built, what wisdom it birthed, what awareness it sharpened. This change is not about pretending the pain never existed. It is about refusing to let it define us in defeat. Life is not an unbroken chain of victories. It is a mosaic of triumphs and trials, each piece forming the picture of who we are becoming. When we choose to see life through the lens of lessons rather than regrets, we empower ourselves to keep moving forward with purpose. We acknowledge that mistakes and missteps are not evidence of failure, but markers of growth. A wrong turn, a journey may add time, but it also adds depth. It shows us landscapes we never would have seen otherwise, perspectives we never would have gained. Even the most difficult seasons can carry hidden blessings if we are willing to search for them. Shifting our perspective is an intentional act. It requires discipline to catch ourselves when our minds drift back to the narrative of loss and consciously redirect our thoughts toward the narrative of learning. It is like reorienting a compass, choosing to point our life's direction toward possibility instead of despair. And in doing so, we stop being prisoners of our past and become students of it. The past becomes our teacher, not our captor. We begin to value the storms for the resilience they produce, the disappointments for the discernment they sharpen, and even the failures for the humility they cultivate. Perspective is powerful because it shapes not only how we see yesterday, but also how we step into tomorrow. If we hold on to regret, we walk into the future with our eyes fixed backward, unable to see the opportunities ahead. But if we hold on to lessons, we walk with clarity, carrying tools we have earned through experience. The shift is simple in concept, but life-changing in effect. Regrets drain us, lessons equip us. And the moment we embrace that truth, the moments that once seemed wasted are redeemed as part of the path that led us here, stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what is ahead. Life is the greatest classroom we will ever enter, and from the moment we take our first breath, we are enrolled in it. Every day brings a new lesson, and every encounter is a part of our curriculum. Some lessons are gentle, like a teacher guiding us with encouragement and patience. Others are hard and unyielding, more like a stern instructor who will not let us pass until we truly understand. In this school, there are no traditional grades or diplomas. The reward is the growth we carry within us, the transformation of who we are as we move through each season of life. Not every lesson comes wrapped in joy. Some come through pain, disappointment, or the sting of failure, but even these are essential to our education. Think of how a craftsman hates a piece of wood. The sanding may be rough, but it is what smooths the surface and reveals the beauty beneath. In the same way, life uses challenges to refine our character, deepen our wisdom, and sharpen our understanding. Without the tests, there can be no mastery. Without the trials, there can be no triumph. The school of life teaches in many ways through people, circumstances, and even our own mistakes. A betrayal might teach us the value of discernment. A loss might teach us the depth of love. A personal failure might teach us humility and perseverance. Each of these moments becomes a chapter in our textbook, written not in ink, but in experience. Unlike a traditional classroom, there is no option to skip the lessons we find uncomfortable. If we try to avoid them, life has a way of bringing them back around until we face them. The goal is not to avoid difficult chapters, but to pass through them and emerge wiser. We must also understand that in this school, we are both students and teachers. What we learn, we eventually pass on, whether through our words, our actions, or simply the way we live. The wisdom we gain from life's lessons becomes a gift we give to others, sometimes without even realizing it. Our struggles can become someone else's survival guide. Our perseverance can become someone else's inspiration. The beauty of the school of life is that we are always learning. There is no final graduation day, only a continual unfolding of insight and understanding. And while we cannot control the lessons that come, we can control how we approach them. We can either resist and resent them, or we can lean in and learn from them. The second choice transforms every experience into something valuable, no matter how difficult it may have seemed at first. In the end, this school is about preparation, preparing us not just for the next day, but for the person we are meant to become. When we embrace life as a teacher, every moment, both joyful and painful, becomes a stepping stone toward our fullest potential. But failure is a word that many fear, but in truth, it is one of life's most powerful tools for shaping who we are meant to be. When we fail, it can feel like we have reached a dead end, a point from which there is no return. Yet failure is not a wall, one that leads to growth, humility, and resilience if we are willing to walk through it. The key lies in redemption, in taking what went wrong and transforming it into something that will serve us in the future. Every failure carries within it the seeds of success, but those seeds do not sprout on their own. We must tend to them by asking ourselves what the failure can teach us. Instead of seeing it as evidence that we are not capable, we can see it as proof that we are in the process of becoming capable. Failure, when redeemed, strips away arrogance, sharpens our focus, and builds in us a strength that cannot be formed in comfort. Think of the goldsmith refining metal in fire. The heat is intense, the process relentless, but it burns away the impurities and leaves the gold stronger and purer than before. Failure is that fire. It exposes what is weak, unsteady, or unprepared in us so that we can strengthen those areas. The moment we stop seeing failure as the enemy and start seeing it as the instructor, we move from a place of defeat to a place of empowerment. Redemption of failure does not mean denying the pain it brings. We must first acknowledge the disappointment, the frustration, and sometimes the shame that comes with it. But once acknowledged, those emotions must be turned into fuel. Every great inventor, leader, or visionary has known the sting of failure. The difference between those who give up and those who succeed is not that the successful avoided failure. It is that they refused to waste it. They took the ashes of their mistakes and built something new from them. When we redeem our failures, we also redeem our past. We stop looking back with regret and start looking back with gratitude for the wisdom gained. That shift changes everything. We no longer fear trying again because we understand that even if we stumble, we will come away richer in understanding. Failure loses its power to paralyze us. The truth is, a redeemed failure often becomes more valuable than an untested success can feel good, but it rarely teaches as deeply as a mistake does. A lesson carved from struggle becomes part of our very character, strengthening us in ways nothing else can. And so when failure comes, and we can face it not as the end of the story, but as the beginning of a new chapter, one that may carry more strength, wisdom, and hope than we ever imagined possible. A seed is one of the simplest things in nature, yet it carries within it a profound lesson for life. On the outside, it looks small, ordinary, and lifeless, but inside it holds the potential for growth, beauty, and abundance. For that potential to be released, the seed must be buried in the darkness of the soil, hidden from sight, pressed down by the weight of the earth. To the untrained eye, it may seem as though nothing is happening, or worse, that the seed has been lost. But in truth, the burial is the beginning. Life often works in the same way. We experience seasons where we feel buried, pressed under the weight of challenges, disappointments, or uncertainty. In those moments, it is easy to believe that we have been forgotten or that our dreams have been crushed. But just as the seed's burial is necessary for its growth, our seasons of darkness can be the very conditions that awaken our potential. The soil that covers the seed is the same soil that nourishes it, and the pressures we face can become the very forces that develop our strength and character. The seed must also endure a process of breaking. Its hard outer shell must crack open for life to emerge. This breaking is not a sign of destruction. It is a sign of transformation. In the same way, the breaking points in our lives, those moments when we feel we cannot go on, can become the points where our true selves begin to emerge. Without the breaking, the life within us would remain locked away, unseen and unexpressed. Growth is a slow and often unseen process. For a time, the seed's work happens underground, out of sight. Likewise, our own growth may not be immediately visible even to ourselves. We may feel as though nothing is changing, but deep within, roots are forming. These roots provide the stability and nourishment needed for what will one day break through into the light. In life, the seasons when nothing seems to be happening on the surface are often the very seasons where the most important work is taking place inside us. Eventually, the seed breaks through the soil, reaching toward the light. What was once hidden is now visible, and the growth that began in the darkness continues in the open. So it is with us. The lessons learned, the strength built, and the resilience developed in our hidden seasons become the foundation for what others will one day see. The seed principle teaches us not to despise the dark seasons or the pressure we face. They are not evidence of our end, but signs of our beginning. Every burial holds the promise of new life. Every breaking contains the birth of something greater, and if we trust the process, we will discover that what once felt like the end was, in truth, the planting of something beautiful and enduring. Reflection is the bridge that connects our past to our future, turning our experiences into wisdom that can guide us forward. Without reflection, the events of life, whether victories or failures, pass through our hands like water, leaving little behind. But when we pause to look back intentionally, we begin to see patterns, principles, and truths that were hidden in the rush of the moment. Reflection is not about dwelling in the past or replaying regrets. It is about mining the past for the gold that lies within it. Just as a traveler consults a map after a long journey to understand the terrain they have crossed, reflection allows us to see where we have been and what it taught us. The lessons are not always obvious in the moment. Sometimes pain blinds us to the gift that is being formed. But in the quiet after the storm, we can look back with clearer eyes. We begin to understand why certain doors closed, why certain relationships ended, why certain challenges shaped us the way they did. And with that understanding comes a deeper ability to navigate what lies ahead. Reflection requires honesty. It means asking ourselves the hard questions. What role did I play in this outcome? What could I have done differently? What did this teach me about myself, about others, about life? This is not about self-condemnation, but about self-awareness. Without that awareness, we are likely to repeat the same mistakes, walking in circles instead of moving forward. With it, we gain the power to make better choices and to grow beyond the limits of our past. There is also a humility in reflection. It reminds us that we are not perfect, that we are still learning, and that every season, pleasant or painful, has value. It helps us appreciate the journey rather than simply rushing toward the destination. And in a world that constantly pushes us to move faster, reflection calls us to slow down, to sit with our experiences, and to listen for the lessons they hold. Reflection also transforms our relationship with hardship. Instead of labeling an event as purely bad, we begin to see it as complex, something that may have caused pain but also brought growth, strength, or clarity. We recognize that even in loss, there can be gain. Even in failure, there can be progress. This shift frees us from bitterness and opens the door to gratitude, even for the seasons we once wished away. Ultimately, reflection equips us for the future. It turns random experiences into intentional preparation. The insights we gather become like tools in a craftsman's kit, ready for the next challenge. Without reflection, life's lessons remain scattered and unused. With it, they become a foundation for wisdom, resilience, and purpose. When we choose to reflect, we choose to grow. We turn pain into perspective, mistakes into mentorship, and memories into guidance. In this way, reflection becomes one of the most powerful habits we can cultivate for a life of no regrets and continual learning. Time is one of the most valuable resources we are given, yet it is also the one we can never regain once it is gone. Every tick of the clock moves us forward, whether we are ready or not. The time principle teaches us a simple but life-changing truth. Yesterday is fixed, tomorrow is uncertain, but today is within our hands. We cannot rewrite what has already been lived, but we can redeem what is yet to come by. How we use the present moment. Many people lose years of their lives looking backward, replaying old mistakes, or holding on to what if. See, while reflection has its place, living in regret robs us of the opportunity to shape the future. The past is like a closed book. You can read it, learn from it, and carry its lessons, but you cannot add new chapters to it. The only chapters you can write are the ones ahead of you, and those are written with the ink of today's decisions. The truth about time is that it never stops moving. The sun will rise and set whether we choose to grow or remain stagnant. If we spend our energy mourning the past, we will find that the future slips away before we can grasp it. But when we honor the present moment, when we decide to live intentionally right now, we change the trajectory of what comes next. The smallest step taken today can alter the entire direction of our life tomorrow. It is also important to understand that time itself is a teacher. It gives us perspective that we cannot gain in the heat of the moment. What may have felt like a crushing loss years ago may now be seen as the doorway to something better. Likewise, what once seemed urgent may now seem trivial. This is why patience is a part of the time principle. Not everything can be fixed or understood immediately. Some answers only come with distance. Some healing only happens with time. Another truth about time is that it calls for urgency, not the rush chaos of trying to do everything at once, but the focused urgency of recognizing that every day is an opportunity that will not return. If something matters deeply, we cannot keep pushing it into a someday. Is not on the calendar. We have only today, and the choices we make in it will either build the life we desire or keep us bound to the life we wish to leave behind. When we embrace the time principle, we stop being slaves of the past and start being stewards of the present. We recognize that the clock is always ticking, and that is not something to fear, but something to honor. It is a reminder that life is precious, fleeting, and worth living fully. We cannot go back, but we can move forward, stronger, wiser, and with the determination to make every moment count. Living forward is the conscious decision to keep our eyes on the road ahead, rather than the rearview mirror. It is not about forgetting the past, but about refusing to let it define the future. Too many people allow yesterday's mistakes, disappointments, or even successes to hold them in place, like an anchor keeping a ship from sailing. Living forward means cutting that anchor loose, not to drift aimlessly, but to set a new course with intention and courage. The past is a teacher, but it is not a home. We are not meant to live there. Every experience we have endured, whether joyful or painful, has given us something we can carry forward: wisdom, strength, empathy, clarity. But carrying the lesson does not mean carrying the weight. There is a difference between remembering and reliving. When we relive, we keep ourselves trapped in the emotions of what was. When we remember, we simply acknowledge what happened and use it as guidance for what will be. Living forward is an act of faith. It requires trusting that the road ahead holds possibilities greater than the pain behind. It asks us to believe that our future is not limited by our past, and that we are capable of writing new chapters that are brighter, fuller, and more aligned with who we are becoming. This kind of living does not ignore challenges, but it refuses to be defined by them. It focuses on the next step, the next choice, the next opportunity. One of the greatest barriers to living forward is fear. Fear that we will fail again. Fear that we will be hurt again. Fear that the best of life is already behind us. But fear is a liar. The truth is, the act of moving forward is itself a victory. Every step you take away from regret and toward purpose weakens the hold of the past. And each time you act in faith rather than fear, you reinforce the truth that you are more than your history. You are the author of your destiny. Living forward also means being willing to change. Sometimes the road ahead requires letting go of old habits, old mindsets, or even old relationships that no longer align with where we are going. This is not always easy, but it is necessary. Growth demands space, and we cannot step into our future while clinging to everything from our past. We must make room for the new by releasing what no longer serves us. Ultimately, living forward is about movement. Consistent, intentional, hopeful movement. It is choosing not to stand still in yesterday's shadow, but to walk boldly into tomorrow's light. It is deciding that no matter how many mistakes you have made or how many times you've been knocked down, you will get up again and take the next step. And in doing so, you will discover that the path ahead is not only possible, it is filled with more promise than you ever imagined.